Vlog 29. Evil. Let's go in. $25 for a PS1. Great day. $25 for a PS2. Great day. $24.
You want to know how I got these toys?
That's pretty cool. Look at this Mike Myers doll. Let's see if my hide and seek is still there. Moment of truth. Ooh. It's been a week, guys. So I put the Wario game back in hiding. I don't want to pick it up right now. I want to see how long I can keep this going. This is just entertaining for me at this point. That's pretty cool. Hilarious John Hughes film. More than likely a 90s repackaging, but nonetheless still cool. Black and white. Ooh, that's nice for a little gaming shelf. 30. Ooh. That's still not bad though. The same miniatures they used in Beetlejuice. Alright guys, leaving Goodwill now. We didn't really get anything, just kidding. They had for $10 Resident Evil Director's Cut, both discs, in great condition, complete in box. That's awesome. This game usually goes for about $35. It's a good day. Now I have the regular and the greatest hits, Director's Cut. So yeah, like I said, the Resident Evil Director's Cut is complete in box, comes with manual, but someone cut the back page out to, I guess it had that $5 off coupon on Resident Evil 2. It's cool because it means that this has a history to it. Someone somewhere used it to its fullest. They played it, they probably played the demo, and then they even took $5 off of a purchase of another game. This is how games were meant to be. The good old days. Evil. We're gonna put Resident Evil in its rightful place. Today I decided to make the main protagonist from Cave Story. Quote, basically I find an image of a sprite I want to create and I work off of that. What I did with this particular sprite was I gave him a more dynamic pose, sort of like how Han Solo stands when he's firing his blaster at stormtroopers, one leg forward, one leg back. After I create the sprite, I begin the ironing process. I got my iron at a Goodwill for $8. Personally, I prefer the perler beads because they make a much nicer and sturdier piece. Here's quote. Evil. So I figured while I'm waiting on my Batman VHS to rewind, I'd go into my mini topics. Jack? Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. Mini topic number 1. So apparently a Joker origin film is in the works. Now one thing that surprised me was that they are looking for a new younger actor to portray Joker, as opposed to the most recent actor, Jared Leto. And I'll make this short and sweet. Don't do it! And the reason they shouldn't do it is because of one particular movie with a very similar character, Hannibal Rising. Now if you guys remember, Hannibal Rising was the origin story to Hannibal Lecter. Back when we originally met Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter, years before Anthony Hopkins did it. Then in Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Red Dragon, all that stuff. What is one thing that we've usually been given with Hannibal Lecter? He is already established. He was already in jail. He was already arrested for the things that he had done. He was Hannibal the Cannibal. Already established. They did those movies fine and perfect with him because I loved his character. He was a scary bad guy because when I went into those movies, I went, I already knew he's the real deal. He's the bad guy. Nobody needs to mess with him. I'm frightened of him. As opposed to in Hannibal Rising, he was a boy. He and his sister were in a cabin. Then some men broke into the cabin and ate his sister or something like that. And it turned him into the Hannibal Lecter we knew. And then there was samurai stuff and he was in love with like his aunt or something like that. Anyway, what a terrible movie. I don't like trying to explain characters like that. I don't want to see when their psyche broke or something like that. The moment I read that they were making this, my immediate thought was it's going to be Hannibal Rising again. So here's my final thought. There's no need for Joker origin films. He needs to be established in Gotham. That's it. Basically, when we meet Joker, we know he is Batman's arch nemesis, and we know he's the clown prince of crime. That's it. We do not need to worry about how his psyche broke, who he is, what are his origins. It's never worked before. It's not gonna work now. Now this is a good segue into my topic number 2. Recently, David Harbour, who is playing Hellboy in the new Hellboy remake, stated that in the new Hellboy movie, we are just going to be thrown straight in. Basically, we don't have to sit through an origin story with Hellboy as we did the original Guillermo del Toro Hellboy, which, don't get me wrong, it was quick, it was easy, it was painless. David Harbour also went on to liken how they're doing it to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where we're thrown into a world, in comes Indiana Jones, he hunts down treasures, he doesn't like snakes, and then after 10 to 15 minutes of the intro, he's in the university teaching, so we get that he's a teacher now. So we've basically shaped who Indiana Jones is within that timeline. And he says this is how it's going to be for the new Hellboy movie. We know he hunts the paranormal. We know he's half demon. And that's really about it. We don't need to sit through an origin story like we already have, which I think fantastic idea. And I love that they're doing it. Because I've always said that an origin story does not need to be the first movie. And a lot of movies suffer from this, obviously, mainly superhero movies. They're like, okay, we've got to start from issue number 1. We've got to show how they get bit and stuff like that. Really, you don't need to. If anything, it would make me fall in love more with the character if I was already thrown into who they were with their superpowers. They were already a defined person who had their morals and set and things like that. And of course, they can learn down the line. And of course, that's the whole part of having a dynamic character and not a static character. Now, I don't see anything wrong with an origin story coming later down the line, maybe the second movie or at the latest the third movie, because think about it. We didn't see young Indiana Jones until The Last Crusade, which was the third movie in the trilogy, back when it was a trilogy. And then after that, we got the young Indiana Jones adventures and etc. So before we were even told about Indiana Jones's youth or anything like that, or maybe how he even was an adventurer then, sort of an origin story, if you will, we had 2 movies of him being an adult, being the normal Indiana Jones we loved, and just going on adventures. More movies need to take this formula and just run with it. And then the origin stories will come, because honestly, I think people will fall in love with the characters a little more if they just are thrown into who they are already established, and then it raises more questions, so we want more, and then we can go with the origin story. Of course, if it works with this character. The topic before this with the Joker and Hannibal, it doesn't work. It doesn't need to work with the psychotic villains, such as Hannibal Lecter or the Joker. It can work for a villain maybe who's misunderstood, or if there's a spectrum of good and evil, they're somewhere in the middle. It's just how they view it is different than how the hero views it, or whatever. Topic number 3. 3 days ago, the new Super Nintendo Classic trailer dropped. And actually, it was really well done. It screamed 90s. It used words like radical. It threw like a film grain over the entire thing. It had just something fun to it that you don't see in a lot of commercials anymore. I mean, look, it started with a guy pouring a bunch of cartridges into this badly made contraption machine that basically crunches them all together and then puts out the Super Nintendo Classic, which was awesome. That was very 90s. It just reminded me sort of like that Nickelodeon figure it out sort of things where they dump something in a machine and then smoke would come out and hammers would and then something would come out on the conveyor belt. It just reminded me really of my childhood. That captured a sort of essence, if you will, of my childhood with the big clanky machines and things like that, the smoke, the words, the guitar riffs were very 90s, good lord. Anyway, I can say that before this commercial came out, you know, I wanted the Super Nintendo Classic. It was actually the very first video game system I ever owned was a Super Nintendo. I mean, of course, I have a Super Nintendo and things like that, not here, but I have a Super Nintendo back home. But before this commercial, I was sort of like, yeah, if it's out there, it's out there. If not, whatever. You know, they've already messed up on pre-orders and things like that. But when I saw the trailer, something in me started to go crazy, and I was like, I have to have this. I want this now. I want it. And they did so well with the commercial, it rekindled the fire in me for the Super Nintendo Classic. Gotta get my hands on one. Wish me luck, guys. Evil. I wanted to show you guys something pretty cool. A while ago, I don't know if you remember, I was at a Goodwill and I found a Yamaha keyboard. It looked sort of like this. And it had almost like a Sega Genesis cartridge you could put in there for more sounds. And I said that the Roland D50 had something like it, except it was cards. Well, here they are. So these are two cards that I have. One came with the synthesizer that I bought off of Craigslist, and the other I paid an obscene amount of money for. Just kidding, I don't pay an obscene amount of money for anything. So basically they hold different sounds on them. Almost like a memory card, or if they came preloaded with more presets than anything like that. But they do look like TurboGrafx 16 cards, which I thought were pretty cool. So yeah, I wanted to tell you guys, I've been wanting to show you guys these for several vlogs now. I just never went into it. But I think they're pretty cool. They're something to collect, so anyway, that's it. Guys, vlog 29 is over. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember guys, if you like this stuff, leave a like, comment. I'd love to talk to you. Subscribe. Be the first to see when these videos drop. DragonCon is 6 days away now. We're going to have so much fun that weekend. If any of you are watching this and are going to DragonCon, then please, if you see me, hit me up or anything like that. Or if I see any of you guys out there that I see on, Instagram and things like that, I'll say hey to you guys. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys at vlog 30.